Hello, and welcome to The Sacred Treasure. It's no accident that you've arrived here now, in this moment. Before our journey begins, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Feel free to share it in the comments. And if this is your first time here, a soft click on like and a quiet subscribe would mean the world. It helps kindred spirits find this same path. If you've been here before, you know my gratitude runs deep. Tonight, we'll step beyond the ordinary and wander into the hidden landscapes of the soul, so breathe deeply and let us begin. Introduction. In this moment, as my words reach you, the world outside hums with movement. Cars pass, screens glow, people hurry toward their next task, their next goal, their next proof of existence. The air is thick with effort, but there is another realm, a quieter, more ancient realm that does not bow to action, speed, or force. It waits for the one who knows the secret. Stillness is not the absence of doing, it is the presence of everything. The human mind has been taught to believe in effort as the only currency of creation. We are told to work harder, run faster, climb higher, speak louder. We are told that results belong to those who sweat and strain. Yet, the greatest miracles, the kind that shift destinies, have never been born from restless hands. They come from a mind so still, a heart so open, that it becomes the mirror in which the infinite sees itself. In that seeing, creation happens without a sound. Stillness is not laziness. It is not withdrawal. It is not the dull quiet of surrendering your dreams. Stillness is the mastery of vibration, the art of becoming so rooted in your inner state that the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself to match it. When you are still, you are not passive. You are the mountain that shapes the wind, the moon that commands the tide, the unseen magnet drawing all that belongs to you. I learned this truth not from books alone, but from life's own gentle and relentless lessons. There was a time when I, like most, believed that more doing meant more power. I filled my days with action, my nights with planning, but all I found was exhaustion, a constant sense that I was chasing something that kept moving further away. Then, in a season when life forced me to stop, when the storms came and the path ahead vanished, I discovered what had been waiting for me all along. In that enforced stillness, I began to feel the hum beneath all things. I began to notice the quiet intelligence moving through every breath, every flicker of light on the wall, every whisper of wind. I realized that the same presence that spins the stars had always been here, waiting for me to stop speaking long enough to listen. And when I did, when I sank into that deep inner silence, things began to happen. Doors opened without me knocking. The right people arrived without my searching. Solutions came not from problem solving, but from being in the right vibration for them to find me. This audiobook is a journey into that sacred territory. It is not a guide for doing more, but for becoming more by doing less. We will walk through the mystical laws that govern stillness, not as an escape from life, but as the most powerful way to command it. You will hear ancient truths woven with living stories. You will receive practices that are not rituals of effort, but invitations into a deeper awareness. By the end, you will not just understand stillness, you will embody it. Here, in this space between sound and silence, between inhale and exhale, we begin. For the law of stillness is not a teaching you will memorize. It is a frequency you will inhabit. And once you enter it, the universe will no longer be something you chase. It will be something you welcome home. Chapter 1. The Still Point in the Turning World. In the middle of a spinning wheel, there is a place that does not move. The rim races in circles, the spokes blur with motion, but at the very center, at the still point, there is only quiet. The whole wheel turns because of this center, and yet it remains untouched by the motion it creates. You, too, have such a place within you. The law of stillness begins here, where the world moves but you do not, where life spins yet you remain rooted in the eternal now. I want you to imagine for a moment that your life is such a wheel. The rim is your days, full of deadlines, voices, screens, and decisions. The spokes are your actions, carrying you from moment to moment. But if you live only on the rim, you will always feel the dizziness of movement, the exhaustion of perpetual motion. You will call it ambition, you will call it survival, you will call it progress. But there is another way. It is to step inward toward the hub where stillness lives. From there, you do not chase life. You direct it without lifting a hand. This is not a poetic exaggeration. It is a metaphysical law. The ancients knew it. The mystics lived it. The saints spoke it in parables, and the sages whispered it in desert caves. They knew that creation is not powered by frantic energy, but by the alignment of vibration, and vibration is not set in chaos, it is set in stillness. A pool of water cannot reflect the sky if it is disturbed. The mind cannot reflect the infinite if it is restless. Let me tell you a story. Many years ago, I met a man named Arjun, a sculptor in a small Himalayan village. His hands were strong, but moved with surprising gentleness, as if every gesture was a prayer. I once asked him how he could spend weeks, even months, working on a single piece without losing patience. He smiled in a way that made time feel irrelevant and said, "I do not work on the stone. I wait for the stone to speak. My job is only to be still enough to hear it." I did not understand him then. I thought it was simply the poetic flair of an artist. But later, when I sat in his workshop, I saw it. He would sit for hours, not touching the chisel, not forcing the shape. He would only watch, breathe, and listen. Then, when the moment was right, his hands would move, and what emerged from the stone was not what he had planned, but what was meant to be. His stillness did not delay creation, it revealed it. This is the same law that governs the universe. When you are still, you are listening. When you are listening, you are aligning. And when you are aligned, the moment to act will arrive without you straining to find it. The action will be effortless because it will be inevitable. We have been trained to believe that stillness is weakness, that if we are not constantly acting, we will be left behind. But the truth is, stillness is the highest form of command. Look at the sun. It does not chase the planets, yet they revolve faithfully around it. Look at the seed. It does not rush to grow, yet in its quiet patience it draws to itself the rain, the soil, the sunlight. Stillness is not absence, it is mastery. When you learn to abide in this inner hub, the turning world no longer throws you. Events still happen, but they do not shake your center. People still speak, but you are not driven by their noise. Challenges still rise, but they find no chaos in you to mirror. And in that space, the universe recognizes a steady vibration, a signal that you are ready to receive. You may ask, but what about my goals, my dreams, my responsibilities? I tell you this, the law of stillness does not ask you to abandon your life. It asks you to move from a place of alignment rather than urgency. When you act from stillness, One word can accomplish what 10 speeches cannot. One step can take you further than 100 frantic strides. This is not magic. It is the way reality itself is built. Energy follows focus, and focus is strongest in stillness. There is a passage from the Tao Te Ching that says, "Do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving until the right action arises by itself?" The law of stillness is exactly this. It is trusting that clarity will come not by stirring the water, but by letting it settle. But let me be clear, stillness is not always easy. The mind, like an untrained horse, will try to run in every direction. It will tell you that you are wasting time. It will tempt you to check your phone, to make another plan, to think another thought. In those moments, you must remember, the wheel only turns because the center holds. Your job is to hold that center. Arjun once told me something I have never forgotten. When I am still, the stone is already finished. It is my hands that are catching up. In the same way, your future is already finished in the unseen. Stillness is how you let it reveal itself. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Imagine your life as a great wheel spinning around you. Work, relationships, dreams, challenges, all in motion. Now, step inward toward the center until you find the still point where nothing moves. In this place, you are untouchable. You are the mountain. You are the sun. Stay here for 5 minutes. Each time your mind tries to wander to the rim, gently return to the center. Breathe slowly. Let the world turn without you. When you open your eyes, move as if you are still carrying that stillness within you. Notice how the world responds. Chapter 2. The language the universe understands. The universe is not persuaded by the volume of your voice or the length of your prayers. It is not moved by your lists, your demands, or your desperation. The universe listens for only one thing: the vibration you are holding in stillness. Words are the language of humans. Vibration is the language of the infinite. When you speak to a person, they hear the sound of your voice. When you speak to the universe, it hears the quality of your being. And being cannot lie. You can say, "I am abundant," but if your stillness is soaked in lack, that is the signal that goes out. You can say, "I am loved," but if your inner frequency hums with fear and unworthiness, that is the message the universe receives. In stillness, all masks fall away. In stillness, you are broadcasting the truth of your inner state. This is why stillness is not merely quiet, it is the amplifier of reality. Whatever you hold there becomes the command you send to life itself. If you sit in stillness and hold peace, you summon peace. If you sit in stillness and hold gratitude, the world bends to bring you more. But if you sit in stillness and fester in doubt, the universe mirrors that too. Stillness is the language of creation, but you must choose what words, what feelings you speak in it. I remember a woman I once knew named Lila. She was soft-spoken, gentle, and never in a hurry. People often mistook her calm for passivity, but Lila had a way of drawing exactly what she needed into her life without ever chasing it. One day, over tea, I asked her how she did it. She smiled as if the answer was obvious. "I speak to the universe in silence," she said. "When I want something, I don't ask out loud. I feel it in my stillness until it feels so real that I no longer need to chase it. Then, somehow, it comes." I didn't fully grasp her meaning until I saw it in action. One afternoon, she mentioned she wanted a piano, not just any piano, but an old, weathered one that felt like it had stories to tell. She didn't post about it, didn't call a shop, didn't even tell more than a couple of friends. She simply sat with the feeling of having it, every morning in her stillness. 2 weeks later, her neighbor, who was moving overseas, knocked on her door and said, "I have this old piano. I feel like it should be yours." That is the language the universe understands, not the scramble of action, but the steady, unwavering pulse of a chosen vibration. When your being becomes the answer, the world doesn't have to guess your request. The mind resists this truth because it believes in doing as the only means of control. But the deeper reality is that your frequency is always writing the script of your life. Stillness is when that script becomes clear, when your signal is clean and uncorrupted by noise. The question is not, will the universe hear me? The question is, what am I telling it right now? To speak this language well, you must train yourself to enter stillness not as an escape, but as a meeting place. This is where you bring the feeling of your desire as if it is already alive within you. You don't wait for evidence. You bring the evidence in vibration first. And here is the paradox. Once you feel it so fully in stillness, the need to have it fades. It is this lack of need that signals to the universe, it is already mine. And then it is. When you understand this, you stop trying to bargain with life. You stop pleading. You stop forcing. You begin to live as if what you desire is already on its way because, in truth, it already exists. Your role is not to create it from scratch, but to match it. The easiest way to match it is to sit still until your vibration hums at the same frequency. The greatest mystics were not the busiest people. They were the ones who could sit beneath a tree or by a fire and commune with the unseen until their very presence became a command. People sought them out not for their actions, but for their state of being. The state was the message, and the message was always clear. I once heard it said that the ocean does not beg for rivers. It simply waits in stillness, and the rivers find their way to it. This is the way of stillness. You become the ocean, you hold your depth, and the streams of life flow toward you without your pursuit. If this sounds too passive for the mind, remember this. Stillness is not inactivity. It is conscious alignment. It is the art of setting your inner frequency to the exact note of what you wish to experience. Once that note is clear, it resonates outward, calling to the matching patterns in the field of all possibility. And they will come, not because you drag them, but because they cannot resist what matches them perfectly. The reason many never see this work is because they try to do stillness. They sit in silence, but spend the time mentally scrolling through fears, problems, and future scenarios. That is not stillness. It is agitation disguised as rest. True stillness is when the inner waters are clear enough to reflect exactly what you wish to see. If you can master this language, life will become simpler than you can imagine. You will still take action, but it will no longer come from desperation. You will still speak words, but they will be few and powerful. You will still move, but always from a place of knowing that the movement is already blessed. Sacred practice. Today, take 10 minutes to speak to the universe in silence. Choose one thing, just one, that you wish to draw into your life. Close your eyes. Breathe until your body softens and your mind quiets. Then, without words, feel what it would be like if it were already here. Let the feeling be vivid. See the colors, hear the sounds, notice the small details. Hold this feeling until you can sit with it as naturally as you would sit with your own breath. If your mind wanders, gently return to the feeling. When the time is done, do not rush to make it happen. Trust the signal you have sent. Chapter 3. When you stop, life starts moving. There is a strange thing that happens when you finally stop running. At first, it feels unnatural, even wrong, as if the world might leave you behind while you rest. Your mind rebels, whispering that you are wasting time, that you should be doing more, becoming more, proving more. But when you stay still long enough to hear past that noise, something remarkable occurs. The things you were chasing begin to turn toward you. Life itself, like a tide that had been rushing away, begins to flow back in your direction. It is the paradox no one tells you. Movement is not always the result of effort. More often, it is the natural response to stillness. It is as if the moment you stop chasing what you want, it remembers where you live. This is the truth buried in every spiritual tradition. Surrender is not loss, it is invitation. I learned this most vividly in the years I spent trying to make everything happen through sheer force. I believed in hustle the way others believe in prayer. I thought if I could just do more, read more, plan more, network more, I could bend life into shape. And sometimes, yes, I achieved something. But those victories felt thin, like fruit picked too early, bright on the outside, sour on the tongue. The cost was always exhaustion, a hollowing of joy. Then came a season I could not have planned for. A project I had poured myself into collapsed overnight. Calls went unanswered. Doors I had worked for years to open were suddenly closed. For a week, I sat in my apartment staring at the walls, too tired even to strategize. It felt like failure. But looking back, it was the first time in my adult life I had truly stopped. On the 8th day, something shifted. I woke without an alarm, without a plan. I made tea and sat by the window, simply watching the light move across the floor. My mind, at first restless, began to soften. I felt myself sink, not into depression, but into presence. It was the first time I realized there is a difference between doing nothing and being still. 2 days later, I received a message from an old acquaintance I hadn't spoken to in years. They had an opportunity they thought was perfect for me. A door opened, one I had never even knocked on. And with it came a series of events I could not have orchestrated if I tried. Meetings, collaborations, blessings that seemed to arrive from nowhere. The truth was, they had always been on their way. I had just been too busy running in circles to let them reach me. When you stop, life starts moving, not because you've given up, but because you've stepped out of your own way. Your constant motion can act like static in a signal. Stillness clears the air. It's not that nothing was happening before. It's that you were too entangled in your own noise to see or receive it. Think of a child chasing a butterfly. The harder they run, the more the butterfly flutters away. But if the child sits quietly in the grass, the butterfly may circle back, curious, even landing on their hand. Desire is like that. If you grasp at it too hard, it moves further out of reach. But if you become still, holding the feeling of already having it, life cannot help but draw it nearer. This is not laziness, though to the frantic mind it may appear so. It is alignment. It is knowing that you are not the sole engine of your reality, that there are unseen forces, patterns, and alignments working constantly on your behalf. Your work is not to control them, but to become the kind of presence they naturally orbit. The river does not chase the fish, it simply flows, and the fish move within it. The earth does not chase the rain, it rests in its place, and the rain comes when the season turns. You too are meant to work with the natural currents of creation, not against them. I once met an elderly gardener in a small coastal town. His hands were worn, his back bent, but his garden was the most vibrant I had ever seen. Flowers spilled over the stone walls, fruits hung heavy on their branches, herbs scented the air. I asked him what his secret was. He laughed, a sound like the creak of an old door, and said, "I plant, I water, and then I wait. The waiting is the work most people skip." He explained that young gardeners often kill their plants with too much tending, overwatering, pulling weeds too often, moving seedlings before they're ready. They are so eager for growth that they do not trust the quiet stages, the unseen work happening beneath the soil. "The earth knows what to do," he said. "You just have to stop disturbing it." Life is like that soil. When you keep poking at it, doubting it, digging it up to check if it's working, you interrupt the process. But when you let it be, when you trust that your seeds are already in the ground, that they are already growing, you allow the natural laws of the universe to unfold. Stillness is the space in which invisible roots grow deep. It is where the unseen connections are made, where the timing is arranged, where the path ahead is quietly cleared. You may not see it in the moment, but one day something blooms, and you realize it had been growing all along. When you stop, you also become available to guidance you could not hear before. The whispers of intuition grow louder when the noise of your own busyness fades. Ideas arrive in the shower, solutions appear in dreams, clarity comes on a quiet walk. These are not accidents. They are the direct result of making space for life to speak back. Stopping is not quitting. Stopping is surrendering to the greater intelligence that is already carrying you. You are like a boat on a vast river. Sometimes you row, yes, but there are times when the best thing you can do is put down the oars and let the current take you. The current is not random. It is always moving toward your highest good. The only question is whether you will allow it. Sacred practice. Today, give yourself the gift of intentional stopping. Choose one thing you have been trying to force. A goal, a problem, a decision. For 10 minutes, sit quietly with it. Acknowledge your desire, then release it into the stillness. Imagine placing it in the center of a calm, wide river. Watch it float downstream, carried by the current of life. Feel your shoulders relax, your breath deepen. Trust that the river knows where to take it. When the 10 minutes are over, resist the urge to check on it mentally. Return to your day, knowing that motion has already begun, just not by your effort. Chapter 4. The Ocean Beneath the Ripple. On the surface of life, everything moves. Conversations rise and fall, markets shift, relationships change, seasons turn. Our thoughts, like small stones, drop into the mind's waters and create ripples that seem to stretch endlessly outward. Most people live only here, on the surface, tossed about by whatever wave or wind passes through. But beneath every ripple lies an ocean that does not stir. Stillness lives there, and in that stillness, your true power is kept. You may not notice this deeper ocean at first because the surface is so loud, so demanding. It insists that you must respond to every ripple, every disturbance, every flash of light on the water. But the deeper you go within yourself, the more you realize that the ripples are temporary. The depths remain untouched. I once traveled to a small coastal town in the south of India, a place where fishermen still went out to sea in narrow wooden boats. One morning, I watched as the wind picked up and the surface of the water danced with white-tipped waves. The fishermen were unbothered. They knew that beyond a certain point, the turbulence of the surface no longer mattered. The deep water below was calm. They rode into that deeper current, and the waves that seemed wild from the shore barely touched them. It struck me that most of us live as if the surface is all there is. We react to every disturbance as if it is the truth of life, never realizing that the depth of our being remains unshaken. The law of stillness is an invitation to live from that depth, to anchor yourself in the ocean beneath the ripple. The world will always have noise. There will always be opinions, expectations, and shifting circumstances. If you live only in reaction to these, your life will be as restless as the surface of the sea. But when you remember the depth, when you remember the stillness that holds everything, you become unmovable in the best way. This is why the great teachers were never easily swayed by criticism or praise. They lived in the depths. Whether the surface waters were calm or stormy, they remained anchored in the ocean of their being. From that place, they could see clearly, act wisely, and speak with a power that did not come from effort, but from presence. A friend of mine, Daniel, once experienced this shift in a dramatic way. He had been working in a high-pressure corporate job for years, always reacting to emails, deadlines, and meetings as if each one was a life-or-death matter. His body began to show the cost. Sleepless nights, tight shoulders, a constant hum of anxiety. One day, he collapsed in the middle of a presentation. The doctors told him it was extreme exhaustion and stress. During his recovery, Daniel began meditating, not as a spiritual practice at first, but simply to help his health. He started with just 5 minutes a day, sitting quietly, focusing on his breath. At first, the noise in his mind was deafening, but slowly he began to notice something. There was a space within him that the stress could not reach. No matter how chaotic the thoughts, this space remained clear and still. He described it to me months later. It's like I found a place under the waves. The storms are still there above me, but down here, it's quiet. I can think. I can breathe. His work didn't disappear. The deadlines still came, but he no longer felt dragged around by them. He had learned to live from the ocean, not the ripple. This is not about ignoring the surface. It's about knowing where your home is. The surface is where events happen, where you act and respond. But the depth is where your energy is renewed, where clarity comes, where you remember who you are. The mistake most people make is trying to control the surface without ever visiting the depths. They keep rearranging the ripples, never realizing that real stability comes from anchoring below them. In stillness, you sink into that deeper water. It is not something you create, it is something you return to. You have carried it within you since the moment you were born. When you close your eyes and breathe, when you release the tight grip of constant doing, you begin to feel it. It is vast, quiet, and unwavering. It does not rise and fall with the day's moods. It simply is. The surface may be exciting. It's where the visible change happens. But the real power of your life is in the invisible depth. The deeper you anchor, the less the surface can disturb you. You will still feel the ripples, yes, but they will no longer define your state. And in that steadiness, you become magnetic. People sense something in you they cannot name, something that makes them feel safe. That something is your stillness. Living from the depth does not mean withdrawing from life. It means engaging with life from a place that is not fragile. When you are anchored in your ocean, you can meet storms without panic, make decisions without fear, and celebrate without clinging. You can allow life to be what it is, knowing that the deeper truth of you is untouched. Nature itself teaches this constantly. Trees do not cling to every leaf, they let them go, knowing the roots remain. The mountain does not fear the wind, it holds its ground, knowing the stone beneath will not move. You too have roots, you too have stone, you too have an ocean beneath the ripple. There is a grace that comes from living here. You begin to trust the natural rhythm of your life. You stop trying to control every wave and start working with the tides. You realize that stillness is not about freezing the surface, but about finding the depth from which all movement arises. And from that depth, your actions become wiser, your words softer, your presence stronger. If you are not used to living in this way, it will take practice. The pull of the surface is strong. It thrives on urgency, on reaction, on the illusion that every ripple is a crisis. But if you commit, even for a few minutes each day, to sinking below, you will begin to feel the change. The surface may still be busy, but you will be steady beneath it. When you master this, something even more extraordinary happens. You discover that you can shape the surface from the depth. You can influence the ripples not by thrashing about, but by the subtle adjustments made far below. Your inner stillness begins to set the tone for the outer world. The people around you start to calm in your presence. Circumstances begin to align more easily. It is not magic, it is resonance. The ocean beneath the ripple is the most powerful force there is. Sacred practice. Find a comfortable place to sit. Close your eyes and imagine your mind as a wide lake. On the surface, see the ripples, your thoughts, your concerns, the events of your day. Now, imagine yourself sinking slowly below the surface. As you descend, the light dims, the water becomes calm, the noise fades. Keep sinking until you reach a place where nothing moves. This is your ocean. Stay here for several minutes. Breathe. Let this stillness fill your body. When you are ready, rise gently back to the surface, carrying the depth with you. Throughout the day, when life feels turbulent, return here for even a few breaths. Chapter 5. The pause that parts the seas. There is a moment so still, it becomes a key. A pause so pure, so unhurried, that the very currents of existence bend around it like a river parting for a stone. It is not the stillness of stagnation, nor the idleness of avoidance. It is the stillness that carries command. A stillness that, when embodied, makes the world lean closer, as if to hear what you have not yet said. I want you to imagine the sea, not a calm sea, but a roaring one. Waves high as mountains, wind tearing through the air like a chorus of restless spirits. Now imagine you standing there, in the middle of that chaos, not trying to push the waters back, not screaming for the wind to stop, but simply being rooted, unmoved. Your stillness is so deep, it begins to affect the elements themselves. Slowly, impossibly, the waters begin to pull apart. This is not a fairy tale, it is the law of resonance. The universe moves in harmony with the dominant frequency present. When your frequency is panic, the storm rages harder. But when your frequency is stillness, unshaken by the performance of appearances, reality itself must adjust to you. I once knew a man named Arjun. He was a trader, the kind who watched numbers dance like a fever dream across screens. Every tick of the market pulled his heart up and down like a kite in a storm. One day, a crash came, sharp and merciless. He lost more in an hour than he had made in months. The room around him erupted in chaos, phones ringing, voices shouting, decisions being thrown like dice into the void. But Arjun, he sat, silent, hands resting on the table, not as defeat, but as a deliberate act. His stillness was not born of hopelessness, but of clarity. And as he sat, something remarkable happened. He began to see patterns. The storm was still raging outside, but inside he had moved to a higher ground. From that vantage, he saw the path to recover, not by frantic scrambling, but by one precise move made at the perfect time. Months later, he told me, "The moment I stopped moving was the moment everything began to move for me." This is the paradox. We think movement creates change, but movement without alignment is noise. Stillness, however, is not the absence of movement, it is the alignment before the move. It is the invisible breath before the arrow flies. Without it, every action is a scatter. With it, a single step becomes destiny itself. The pause that parts the seas is a deep inner knowing that nothing is truly urgent, that the world's emergencies are often invitations to your own centeredness. This does not mean you never act. It means you refuse to be pulled from your throne of clarity by the theater of urgency. You sit, you breathe, you feel the tides within you settle, and when you move, it is with the weight of the entire ocean behind you. There was a woman I once met in the mountains, an artist named Lena. She painted only after long hours of sitting by her window, watching the wind through the pine trees. She told me she used to paint frantically, afraid she would lose the vision if she didn't capture it fast enough. But the more she worked this way, the more her paintings looked like hurried thoughts instead of finished dreams. Then one winter, she stopped. She sat by the window for weeks, brush untouched. It felt like doing nothing, she told me, but it was the most important part. When spring came, she painted again, but now each stroke carried a timeless weight. People could not stop staring at her work. It had the depth of the mountains themselves. Stillness does not mean delay. It means depth. It means letting the waters of your being grow so clear that when you act, the act is pure truth. The pause is not wasted time. It is the womb in which power is gestating. In your life, the seas you wish to part, whether they are finances, relationships, health, or dreams, are not parted by frantic splashing. They are parted by the presence you bring. You must become like a mountain in the middle of the storm. When you no longer mirror the chaos must rearrange around you. This is the sacred law of the pause. Life follows your lead. The moment you stop chasing, the thing you seek realizes it has been following you all along. When you are still, you are magnetic. Your silence becomes a summons, and all that belongs to you will answer. Sacred practice, the commanding breath. Find a place where you can be undisturbed for 10 minutes. Sit comfortably, spine upright, shoulders relaxed. Close your eyes. Begin to breathe slowly, as if each inhale is drawing in the vastness of the universe, and each exhale is releasing the need to control it. Now, in your mind, bring forth the greatest storm in your life right now. Whatever feels urgent, impossible, or heavy, see it vividly. Then, without pushing it away, imagine yourself sitting right in the center of it, completely still. Hear the noise, feel the wind, but remain unmoved. Stay there until you feel the storm lose its power over you. Breathe, Let the stillness within become stronger than the noise without. When you open your eyes, carry that stillness into your next decision. Chapter 6. The Throne of the Inner King. The Throne of the Inner King. Even the name feels as though it belongs to a forgotten kingdom, a place hidden within you where no wind can disturb the flame, no noise can drown the silence, no shadow can touch the light. It is the seat of supreme authority, not over nations or people, but over the only realm you will ever truly rule, your own inner world. In this place, stillness is not weakness. Stillness is not passivity. Stillness is the scepter. And the one who can sit upon the throne without flinching, without fidgeting, without seeking escape, becomes the one who commands worlds. For what you do from the throne is not the same as what you do from the marketplace. The marketplace runs on effort. The throne moves creation with a glance, a breath, a thought. When you first approach this throne, it will test you. It will not open itself to restless hands and frantic minds. It will wait to see if you can endure your own silence. Can you hear the stillness without trying to fill it? Can you sit without the desperate need to solve, fix, or chase? Can you stop reaching long enough to discover that everything has already been placed in your palm? This is the test of the inner king. Those who fail run back into the noise, thinking they have lost their chance. Those who pass discover they never needed to seek the throne. It had been inside them all along. I once knew a man who came to me in despair. His business had collapsed, his marriage dissolved, and his body carried the marks of years of tension. He had tried everything: therapy, strategy, long hours of work, but the harder he tried, the deeper he sank into exhaustion. One day I invited him to do something he had never done. Nothing. I told him to sit, to breathe, to let his mind rest without following its frantic pathways. He resisted at first. His thoughts screamed, "You must act now or you will lose everything." But eventually the current slowed. In that quiet, something remarkable happened. He began to feel a sense of dignity return, not because he had achieved anything, but because he had stopped bowing to the tyranny of panic. He had stepped back onto his throne. From that place, clarity came. Opportunities began to appear without the chasing. His marriage did not return, but his heart healed. His business did not resurrect, but a new venture arose with ease, without the weight of desperation. Stillness gave him back his crown. The throne of the inner king is not about control, it is about alignment. The king does not need to manipulate the river to make it flow. He understands the river flows toward him when he aligns with its current. In stillness, you stop wrestling with life and instead stand as the magnetic center of it. The birds still sing, the tides still move, the planets still spin. And so does life, around you, toward you, because you have become steady enough to hold it without trembling. The ancient mystics knew this truth. In the temples of Egypt, they spoke of the pharaoh as the still point in the turning world. In the halls of the Vedic seers, they taught the image of the yogi seated in lotus, unmoving while the winds of karma swirled around him. In the desert nights of the prophets, they sat in caves until the voice of God was clear enough to command cities. Always the throne has been still. Always the throne has been inner, and here is the paradox. From stillness, you command more than you ever could through action. This is because the throne sits in the causal realm, the place where thought becomes form, where feeling becomes matter. Every act taken from the throne ripples outward like a king's decree, echoing through the unseen before it touches the seen. But acts taken from panic, they dissolve before they reach the edges of the marketplace. One is the way of power, the other is the way of scrambling. When you sit upon the throne of the inner king, you no longer chase after approval or outcomes. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself by your busyness. You carry the energy of inevitability, as if the world itself knows it must rearrange for you. This is why great leaders, true mystics, and deep lovers of life are never in a hurry. Their presence speaks louder than their movement. Their gaze changes the air in the room. Their stillness speaks what their words could never hold. So how do you sit upon this throne? You enter it not by grasping, but by releasing. You let go of the belief that only doing creates change. You let go of the fear that stillness means stagnation. You sink back into yourself, into the quiet kingdom within. And there you wait, not in boredom, but in majesty. You let the throne teach you that being is the first act of creation, and that once your being is aligned, doing becomes effortless. Imagine now that throne within you. Imagine its back high and strong, its seat wide enough to hold the full weight of your being. See your hands resting gently upon its arms, not clenched in fear, but relaxed in command. Around you, the palace of your soul is lit with a golden light. The windows open to the winds of destiny, and all of life's messengers stand at the ready. You do not chase them, they approach you, bowing, offering their gifts. You do not leave the throne to hunt for what is already on its way. You simply hold your place, certain that nothing can pass you by when you are seated in the center of your own authority. This is the great secret of the inner king. You were never meant to be a servant to the chaos of the world. You were meant to be the still center from which the world takes its cue. But you cannot learn this through rushing. You cannot discover it in the noise. You must return to the throne again and again, until the throne becomes the only place from which you live. Sacred practice. Today, set aside a single hour, not to read, not to plan, not to meditate with effort, but simply to sit in your own throne of stillness. Imagine yourself as the inner king or queen, holding a scepter of calm authority. Feel the weight of that presence in your body. Let no thought drag you from it. Should restlessness rise, remember, the throne does not move for anyone. Stay until the air around you feels different. Stay until the stillness begins to move the universe on your behalf. Chapter 7. The Magnetic Field of Calm. Calm is not merely the absence of noise or conflict. Calm is a force, an invisible field that surrounds you and reaches out like the gentle pull of the moon on the ocean's tides. It is magnetic, quietly commanding the attention of everything around it, yet never demanding or forcing. This is the calm that transforms, that reshapes reality not by will or pressure, but by invitation. To enter this magnetic field is to wield a power so profound that life itself bends toward your stillness. Imagine for a moment a great oak tree standing alone in a storm. Its branches twist and roar under the force of the wind, but its roots, deep and silent, hold firm. That rootedness is the magnetic calm we seek. The storm rages, but the tree does not break. Instead, it becomes a sanctuary, a place where birds find refuge and weary travelers pause to catch their breath. Calm is not weak. It is the foundation upon which strength grows. I remember meeting a woman named Maya, a healer whose presence was like a soft, steady flame in a world of flickering candles. People came to her in turmoil, overwhelmed, anxious, lost. And in her presence, something shifted. The chaos did not disappear, but it softened as if her calm extended an invitation to the storms to settle. She told me once, "Calm is not what I create, it is what I return to. It is my home, and when I come back to it, others follow." This magnetic field is rooted in the law of stillness. The universe resonates with the frequency you hold most steadily. When you anchor yourself in calm, you are broadcasting a signal that says, "I am steady, I am whole, I am safe." And like a moth to a flame, life moves toward that certainty. In the chaos of daily life, it's easy to believe that movement, noise, and urgency are signs of progress. Yet, the truth is quite the opposite. When you are reactive, rushed, or fearful, your energy scatters like leaves in the wind. You become a storm yourself, pushing away the very things you desire. But when you slow, when you center yourself in calm, you become a magnet. Your presence draws opportunities, people, and synchronicities toward you without effort. Consider the paradox of the lotus flower. It blooms beautifully on still water, its roots deep in the mud, its petals reaching for the light. The water around it is calm and reflective, creating a mirror that doubles the flower's grace. Yet the lotus does not fight the mud or stir the water. It simply rises through stillness and time. Your calm is your water. It reflects your inner beauty and invites the world to see it clearly. I recall a story from the life of the Buddha, who was once approached by a frightened disciple amid a violent storm. The disciple was trembling, fearful of the thunder and lightning. The Buddha smiled and said, "Why do you fear the storm outside when the storm inside is silent?" He invited the disciple to sit and feel the stillness beneath the turmoil, to become the calm that no storm could touch. That calm was a magnetic field so powerful that it transcended fear and changed the disciple's life forever. This magnetic calm is not achieved by suppressing emotions or denying reality. It is cultivated by embracing your whole self, including your fears and doubts, but choosing to root yourself in the still center beyond them. It is the calm that rises from acceptance, not resistance. When you can hold your inner world steady, regardless of external circumstance, you become an unshakable force. I met a man named Raphael, a businessman caught in the whirlwind of a failing project. Stress and panic threatened to consume him, but he had learned a secret. Every morning before the world awoke, he sat in silence, breathing deeply into his calm. This simple practice created a magnetic field around him. His team noticed the change. They began to listen more, to collaborate better. Doors opened that had been shut tight. Raphael's calm didn't solve his problems instantly, but it shifted the entire energy so solutions could emerge naturally. This magnetic field of calm is the secret gateway to manifestation. The universe is not drawn to desperation or frantic striving. It responds to a steady, confident vibration. When you become calm, you are like a lodestone, pulling the pieces of your desires together in perfect alignment. Your stillness becomes an irresistible force field that calls to matching energy. But how do you cultivate this magnetic calm amid the constant demands of life? It begins with your breath. Your breath is your anchor, a tool you carry everywhere. When you feel yourself pulled into anxiety or haste, pause and take a deep, deliberate breath. Feel it expand your belly, slow your heart, and settle your mind. This simple act reconnects you to the still point inside, the throne of your inner king. Next, practice presence. Notice the small details around you, the way light filters through a window, the texture of a leaf, the rhythm of your own heartbeat. Presence roots you in now, and now is always calm. The past and future may stir storms, but the present moment remains a quiet harbor. Finally, remind yourself daily, your calm is your command. It is the space from which true power flows. It does not shout, it does not demand, it simply is, and that is enough to move mountains. Sacred practice. Today, create your own magnetic field of calm. Find a quiet place and sit comfortably. Close your eyes and focus on your breath, feeling it flow deeply and evenly. As you breathe, imagine a glowing light expanding from your heart, growing larger with each inhale. See this light creating a calm magnetic field around you, a bubble of peace that nothing can penetrate. Visualize this calm extending outward, touching the people, situations, and dreams you hold dear. Sit with this feeling for 10 minutes, breathing into it fully. When you return to your day, carry this calm with you, knowing it draws life's blessings effortlessly. Chapter 8. Becoming the Empty Vessel. There is a sacred paradox whispered through the ages. To be filled, you must first be emptied. Like a chalice waiting to receive the divine nectar, your soul becomes a vessel, not by accumulation, but by surrender. Becoming the empty vessel is not about loss. It is about clearing space for the infinite to pour in. It is the quiet art of letting go, not just of what weighs you down, but of everything you think you need to hold on to. Imagine a river flowing into a lake. The lake does not resist the river. It does not try to push the water back. Instead, it opens itself wide, allowing the river's fullness to enter and mingle. Yet, if the lake were already overflowing, if it clung tightly to the water within, the river would spill over, powerless to fill or refresh. So, too, must your heart become open, vast and unbounded, ready to receive what the universe longs to give. I recall an ancient story from the desert about a traveler who carried a heavy jar filled with sand. He journeyed for days, burdened and weary. One night, he sat beside a well and began to fill his jar with the cool, clear water. But the jar was already full of sand, and no water could enter. The traveler realized he must first empty the sand, pouring it back into the earth before the well's blessing could fill his jar. It was only when the jar was empty that it became a vessel of life. This image reflects the spiritual law of emptiness. Your mind, your heart, your soul all become vessels capable of holding boundless abundance when you release the clutter of past fears, limiting beliefs, and incessant striving. The moment you stop trying to force the river to flow on your terms, you allow the natural current to enter and carry you beyond what you imagined possible. Becoming an empty vessel is not a state of nothingness, but a state of pure potential. It is the space between notes in a melody, the silence that gives music its power. In that silence, creation whispers its secrets. When you embody emptiness, you become receptive to intuition, to divine guidance, and to the subtle movements of your own soul. I once knew a woman named Anya who had spent her life chasing goals, collecting achievements, and building walls around her heart. She felt she needed to prove her worth through doing. But over time, she became exhausted, disconnected from her true self. Then, one day, she began a practice of conscious surrender. She sat quietly each morning and simply emptied her mind, her worries, her shoulds. She learned to breathe into the gaps where her thoughts once crowded. Slowly, a profound transformation began. She found new ideas flowing effortlessly, relationships deepening with unexpected ease, and a sense of peace growing inside her. By becoming empty, she had made space for fullness beyond anything she had ever forced. The empty vessel also carries humility. It knows it does not hold all the answers. It trusts that the universe knows better than the frantic ego ever could. This humility is not defeat, but a sacred strength. It is the wisdom to admit, I do not need to control everything, for I am held by a greater power. In the practice of becoming empty, you also release attachment to outcomes. When you cling tightly to a desire or a vision, you create resistance that blocks its arrival. But when you relax your grip, you invite life to fill your vessel in its own perfect timing and form. This is the law of flow, the dance between surrender and receiving. Consider the art of pottery. A master potter begins with a lump of clay, slowly shaping and hollowing it. The beauty of the vessel is not just in its form, but in its hollow center, the empty space that can hold water, wine, or sacred herbs. Without that emptiness, the vessel is useless. You too must allow yourself to be hollowed out, to become the kind of vessel that can hold the richness of your destiny. I remember sitting with a spiritual teacher who placed his hands on my head and whispered, "Be like the empty bowl. The fullness will come, but only if you allow space." Those words stayed with me, echoing in moments of doubt and restlessness. When I practiced letting go of fears, of timelines, of the need to control, I found a peace deeper than any achievement. This emptiness is also the foundation of creativity. When your mind is quiet, ideas arise like stars emerging in the night sky. The empty vessel becomes the birthplace of inspiration, a sacred space where dreams are born not from struggle, but from grace. Yet, becoming empty is not always easy. The ego fears emptiness because it mistakes it for loss or insignificance. It clings to busy thoughts, to worries, to identities formed by what you have or what you do. But this is an illusion. In truth, the ego's grasping only blocks the flow of your true self, the infinite being who exists beyond doing and having. The invitation, then, is radical: to trust in the power of emptiness, to practice surrender as an act of courage, to let the river of life fill you from within, no longer weighed down by the sand of resistance. Sacred practice. Find a quiet place where you can sit comfortably for 15 minutes. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths, allowing each exhale to release tension and thought. Imagine your mind as a jar filled with sand and debris. Visualize yourself gently tipping the jar over and allowing the sand to spill out, leaving the jar empty and light. Now, picture a pure, clear stream of water flowing into the jar, filling it slowly with peace, clarity, and abundance. As you breathe, feel yourself becoming that empty vessel, open, receptive, ready. Whenever thoughts arise, acknowledge them, then let them go like grains of sand falling away. Rest in this openness, knowing it is the sacred space from which all creation flows. Chapter 9. The wind that bows to the mountain. There is a wind that rages fiercely, desperate to bend, to break, to shift everything in its path. It howls, it storms, it lashes against the earth with a fury born of resistance. And then there is the mountain, unmoving, silent, vast, that does not yield to the wind's aggression, but simply bows with quiet grace. The wind's power is loud, relentless, urgent. The mountain's power is still, profound, eternal. In the dance between these two forces lies the lesson of surrender, strength, and the mastery of stillness. Imagine yourself as the mountain, your presence so rooted, so deep, that even the most violent gusts find no purchase. The mountain does not confront the wind by force, it meets it with a humility born of knowing its own unshakable nature. It bows, not as weakness, but as wisdom. The wind may blow hard, but it must move around the mountain, reshape itself to flow in harmony with something greater than its own rage. This is the essence of the law of stillness, to be so anchored in your inner truth that external forces, no matter how powerful or chaotic, cannot uproot you. Instead, they must bow, adjust, and flow around you. The mountain teaches us that strength is not the loud clash of wills, but the quiet endurance of being. I remember a story from my travels in the Himalayas. A young monk was once caught in a sudden storm while meditating on a cliffside. The wind whipped around him, threatening to extinguish his small fire. Rather than fight it, the monk bowed his head, sheltered the flame, and let the wind pass. After the storm cleared, his fire still burned, brighter than before. The mountain itself, after centuries of storms, stands majestic because it learned to receive the wind without resistance. The monk had embodied the mountain spirit, a stillness so complete that the wind became part of his strength. In our lives, the winds come in many forms: unexpected challenges, harsh words, painful losses, inner doubts. Our first instinct is often to resist, to fight back with equal force, to scream louder than the storm. But this reaction only feeds the chaos, fuels the fury. What if instead you could be like the mountain, a grounded center that invites the storm to dance around it without shaking? The wind that bows to the mountain is the wind that is transformed by stillness. It no longer rages unchecked, but becomes a part of the larger harmony. In the same way, when you hold your center in the face of turmoil, you transform the energy around you. People notice the shift. Conflict softens. Opportunities appear where walls once stood. Your calm presence rewrites the rules of engagement. Consider the oak tree in a hurricane. It does not stand rigid and break. It bends with the wind's force, bowing low to preserve its core. Similarly, your strength grows not in defiance, but in flexibility rooted in stillness. The mountain and the tree do not resist the wind's power by matching it. They yield and absorb, preserving what is essential. You too can learn this dance. I once counseled a woman named Elena who was overwhelmed by relentless pressure at work and home. She described feeling blown around by demands and expectations, losing herself in the process. I invited her to imagine the mountain and the wind, to embody that rooted calm no matter what storms blew past. At first, she struggled, feeling fragile in stillness. But over time, she found that when she stopped reacting with panic or force, the storm around her softened. Her colleagues began to respect her calm. Her family noticed her presence. She was no longer a leaf caught in every gust, but the mountain steady and sure. The mountain's power is eternal because it does not resist reality. It accepts and transcends it. When you stop struggling against what is, you enter a space of profound freedom. The winds will come and go, but you remain. And in remaining, you become a beacon, a refuge, a source of strength not only for yourself, but for all who come near. The mountain's stillness is not cold or lifeless. It hums with deep vitality, with the silent pulse of ancient stones and living roots. So too does your inner stillness carry a vibrant energy, a magnetic force that draws life to you in perfect alignment. This is the power of surrender, not defeat, but mastery. To bow to the wind is to acknowledge that life is a dance of opposites: movement and rest, storm and calm, effort and surrender. You do not need to conquer the wind. You need only to find your place where you cannot be moved. That place is your throne of stillness. From there, the wind's wildness becomes part of your story, but it no longer defines you. Sacred practice. Find a quiet place where you can sit or stand comfortably. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. Visualize yourself as a great mountain, vast and immovable. Imagine the wind beginning to blow fiercely around you, howling with force and urgency. Instead of resisting, feel yourself bowing gently to the wind, flexible but unbroken, rooted but open. Notice how the wind changes as it meets your stillness, flowing around you with less rage. Breathe deeply into this calm strength. Repeat silently, "I am the mountain. The wind bows to my stillness." Carry this practice with you as a reminder that no storm can shake the grounded power within. Chapter 10. The Mirror That Moves Nothing. There is a mirror so still, so perfectly calm, that it reflects every passing moment without distortion. It moves not with the wind, nor with the ripples of passing clouds. It is the mirror that moves nothing, unchanging, serene, untouched by the shifting scenes it reflects. This mirror is not cold or lifeless. It is alive with quiet power, the silent witness to all that is, yet bound to none. In this mirror lies a profound secret, the power of pure observation, the sacred art of being the still point amidst the ever-turning dance of life. Imagine yourself as that mirror, your surface so smooth and clear that it reflects the world exactly as it is, no more, no less. The joys, the sorrows, the triumphs, the tragedies, all pass before you, yet you remain unmoved. When the storms rage, you do not ripple. When the sun shines, you do not burn. You simply hold the reflection, perfect and whole, inviting nothing to disturb your peace. This mirror is the embodiment of the law of stillness. It is the understanding that power does not come from trying to change the reflection, from pushing or pulling at circumstances. Power arises from the space of pure awareness, the witness that watches without judgment, without interference, without reaction. When you embody this mirror, you hold the world's reflections lightly, and in doing so, you command your own inner kingdom. I remember a story from ancient Zen teachings about a master who carried a mirror wherever he went. His students asked him, "Master, why do you carry the mirror?" He replied, "So that I may see clearly what comes to me, without adding or taking away." One day, a storm broke out, and a student asked, "Master, does the mirror become dirty in the rain?" The master smiled. "The mirror does not move, it does not change. The rain falls and leaves no mark." The lesson was clear. In life's storms, remain like the mirror, reflecting, witnessing, yet unmoved. In our lives, the impulse to control, to resist, or to react is strong. When we see something we dislike, a difficult person, a painful event, a personal failure, we try to push it away or change it. Yet, this only creates ripples on the surface of our being, stirring waves of frustration, anger, or sorrow. The mirror teaches a different way: to observe with equanimity, to hold each reflection as part of the whole without disturbance. Consider water in a still pond. When a leaf falls, the water ripples and then settles, returning to perfect clarity. The leaf is neither welcomed nor rejected. It simply is part of the scene. You too can be the water that returns quickly to stillness after every disturbance, the mirror that does not hold on to the reflections but lets them pass like clouds in the sky. I once met a woman named Lila who struggled with constant anxiety. Her mind was a restless sea of what-ifs and worries. She tried countless methods to quiet the noise: meditation, affirmations, therapy. But relief was fleeting. Then, one day, she learned to become the mirror. Instead of fighting her anxious thoughts, she began to observe them with gentle curiosity, allowing each worry to appear and pass without judgment. Over time, her inner turmoil softened and a spacious calm emerged. She realized the thoughts had no power over her unless she moved with them. Her stillness became a sanctuary. This mirror state is not detachment or numbness. It is the most profound engagement with life without being entangled by it. It is the freedom that arises when you no longer identify with the waves on the surface, but know yourself as the ocean beneath. You witness emotions, events, and thoughts as passing reflections, not as your permanent reality. There is a sacred power in this witness consciousness. When you become the mirror, you cease to feed reactive energy into situations. You no longer amplify drama or conflict by getting swept away in them. Instead, your calm presence disarms tension, diffuses chaos, and invites peace. People feel safe around you because you do not carry storms within. You hold space for others to be exactly as they are, without needing to fix or control. The mirror that moves nothing also reflects back your true self, your deepest essence beyond personality and circumstance. When you stop struggling with the world, you begin to see yourself clearly without distortion. This clarity is the foundation of wisdom and authentic power. You no longer chase illusions or false identities, but rest in the truth of who you are. I recall a spiritual teacher telling me, "The mirror does not choose what to reflect, it accepts all. In that acceptance, it becomes whole." To embody the mirror is to embrace life in its fullness, the light and the shadow, the joy and the pain, with a heart that neither clings nor resists. Yet, this practice demands patience and discipline. The mind loves to stir the waters, to jump into the waves of emotion and reaction. But with gentle persistence, you learn to return to the mirror's stillness again and again. This repetition deepens your capacity to be present, to be peaceful, to be powerful. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space and sit comfortably. Close your eyes and take several deep breaths, allowing your body to relax. Now, imagine yourself as the perfect mirror, smooth and clear. Visualize the scenes of your life, people, events, feelings, passing before you like images reflected on your surface. See each reflection without judgment or attachment. If emotions arise, notice them as colors or ripples on your mirror's surface, then watch them fade without effort. Repeat silently, "I am the mirror. I reflect all, but I move nothing." Stay with this practice for 15 minutes. When you open your eyes, carry this calm witness into your day, knowing you have the power to hold life's reflections without being moved by them. Chapter 11. When Desire is a Whisper. Desire is often imagined as a roaring fire, urgent, loud, demanding attention and action. But true desire, the kind that shapes your destiny, does not shout. It whispers. It is the soft murmur beneath the noise of your restless mind, the gentle pull that calls you deeper into yourself. When desire is a whisper, it invites you to listen, not to chase, but to receive. It asks you to slow, to soften, to become still enough to hear what your soul longs for most. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast forest at twilight. The day's clamor fades, and a single quiet breeze stirs the leaves. In that hush, you feel a gentle invitation, not a demand. Desire, like that breeze, is subtle and sacred. It is not about frantic grasping or hurried pursuit. It is a delicate call to align your being with what is meant to be. Many of us have been taught that desire must be acted upon immediately, that urgency is proof of worthiness. But this is a misunderstanding. The universe speaks in whispers, not screams. When you respond to desire with stillness, you create the fertile ground from which manifestation blooms effortlessly. It is in the silent space that the seeds of your dreams take root and grow. I recall a story from a humble village where an old gardener tended a single rose bush. Every morning he would sit quietly, listening to the whisper of the petals unfolding. His neighbors urged him to water, to prune, to hurry the growth. But the gardener knew better. He understood that desire, the rose's desire to bloom, was a quiet force that required patience and gentle attention. One day the rose blossomed in perfect time, its fragrance filling the air with a sweetness no rush could have created. Desire as a whisper is also the voice of your intuition. It is the subtle guidance that comes not from outside pressure, but from within your deepest self. When you are still, you can hear this voice clearly. When you rush or push, the whisper is drowned out by the noise of doubt and fear. Consider the contrast between shouting into a storm and speaking softly in a quiet room. The storm may scatter your words, but the quiet room holds and amplifies them. So it is with desire. When you quiet your mind, the whisper grows louder, clearer, more compelling. You no longer need to force the outcome. You simply follow the thread of your longing with trust. I once worked with a woman named Sophia who was frustrated by her lack of progress in life. She wanted success, love, and meaning, but her efforts felt frantic and scattered. I asked her to listen, to pause, and hear what her desire whispered beneath the noise. At first, she heard nothing but silence, but with time and practice, a gentle longing emerged, a vision of a life lived with grace rather than struggle. As she aligned with this whisper, her steps became lighter, her choices clearer, and her manifestations more effortless. She learned that when desire is a whisper, it is an invitation to stillness, not to frantic action. This whisper of desire also teaches surrender. It reminds you that you do not need to control every detail. You do not need to force the universe's hand. Instead, you open your hands, softening your grip, trusting that the gentle current will carry you where you need to go. In this surrender, desire transforms from a demanding master to a loving guide. Desire, when whispered, is sacred. It is the language of your soul's deepest truth. It speaks to your unique purpose, your true calling. When you listen, you align not just with what you want, but with who you truly are. This alignment is the secret to manifesting not just fleeting wishes, but lasting fulfillment. The great mystics understood this. They spoke of desire as a flame that burns without smoke, a light that shines without heat. It is a presence felt in the stillness between breaths, the sacred pause that holds all possibility. To hear this whisper, you must cultivate patience, trust, and openness. You can begin today by creating space for the whisper. Find a moment in your day to sit quietly, away from distractions. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Invite your desire to speak, not with urgency, but with softness. What does it say? How does it feel? Resist the urge to answer or act immediately. Instead, listen deeply, honoring the sacred subtlety of the call. Remember, desire is not a force to be conquered, but a melody to be heard. When you become still enough to hear it, you step into a dance with the universe, moving not against the current, but with its flow. This is the power of desire as a whisper, the power to create from a place of peace, grace, and deep knowing. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space where you can sit comfortably and close your eyes. Take several slow, deep breaths, allowing your body to relax. Invite the whisper of your deepest desire to emerge, not as a demand, but as a gentle voice. Imagine this desire as a soft breeze or a delicate light within your heart. Listen attentively without judgment or haste. If thoughts or doubts arise, gently set them aside like leaves floating downstream. Spend at least 10 minutes in this receptive stillness. When you open your eyes, carry the memory of this whisper with you, returning to it whenever you feel rushed or overwhelmed. Trust that your desire is guiding you in perfect time and perfect way. Chapter 12. The Weight of Presence. Presence is often imagined as lightness, a fleeting breeze, a whisper on the wind, something intangible that slips through the fingers. Yet true presence carries weight. It is a gravity, a force that anchors you deeply into the moment, making you real, palpable, and profoundly felt by the world around you. This weight is not a burden. It is a sacred responsibility and a gift. To embody presence is to embody power, the power of being fully here, fully alive, fully aware. Imagine a stone dropped into still water. The stone sinks, steady and sure, pulling the surface downward and outward, creating ripples that touch every edge. That sinking is presence, solid, undeniable, moving quietly but with authority. Presence is not about doing more or trying harder. It is about being more grounded, more focused, more connected. It is the difference between existing and truly living. I remember a story about a great teacher who was asked, "Master, how do you carry such weight without faltering?" He replied, "My weight is the weight of my presence. I do not carry it, I am it." In that simple answer lies the truth. Presence is not something you add to yourself like a burden. It is the essence of who you are when you stop resisting and start being. The weight of presence is the gravity that draws others to you. When you are truly present, people feel seen, heard, and valued. Your energy stabilizes the chaos around you. You become a refuge, a still point in a world spinning with distraction and hurry. Presence is a magnetic field, not because you demand attention, but because your grounded energy invites it. Consider the ancient oak tree once more. Its branches may sway in the wind, but its trunk is immovable, heavy with the wisdom of years. Its roots dig deep, anchoring it to the earth. This heaviness is not limitation, it is freedom. The oak is free to weather storms because it carries the weight of presence within its core. Presence also means showing up fully for yourself. It is the courage to be real in every moment, to face your fears and doubts without turning away. When you carry the weight of presence, you no longer hide behind distractions or masks. You stand in your truth, no matter how vulnerable or imperfect. This authenticity is a powerful force that shifts the energy around you. I met a man named Daniel who struggled with feelings of invisibility. He felt overlooked and unheard in his family and workplace. Through daily practices of mindfulness and self-reflection, he began to cultivate presence, learning to ground himself in his body, to listen deeply, and to respond with intention rather than reaction. Over time, others began to notice the change. Daniel's voice carried weight because it came from a place of genuine presence. He was no longer invisible, he was unmistakable. The weight of presence also carries a sacred humility. It is the recognition that you are part of a larger whole, connected to all life. This humility frees you from the need to dominate or control. Instead, you hold space for others to be, to grow, to shine. Presence becomes a container for love, compassion, and healing. In the spiritual traditions, presence is often described as being fully awake. It is the moment when the veil between self and other, inside and outside, thins. In this space, time seems to slow, and life reveals its deeper rhythms. You sense the interconnectedness of all things and your place within the vast tapestry of existence. Yet, presence is not always easy to carry. The modern world pulls us in countless directions, scattering our attention and fragmenting our energy. It is easy to become distracted, overwhelmed, or numb. But the invitation remains, to come home to yourself again and again, to carry your presence with intention, to remember that your weight is your power. Imagine now the feeling of your own presence as a physical weight, a gentle pressure in your chest, a rootedness in your feet, a calm strength in your spine. Breathe into that weight and allow it to ground you. Let it remind you that you are here, now, fully alive and fully connected. This weight is not something to resist or escape, it is something to embrace. It is the gravity that holds you steady when the world shifts beneath your feet. It is the power that allows you to act from a place of clarity rather than chaos. It is the lightness of being heavy with purpose and love. Sacred practice. Find a quiet place where you can sit comfortably. Close your eyes and take several deep, slow breaths. As you breathe, imagine a warm, steady weight settling in your chest, a weight that is neither heavy nor burdensome, but grounding and real. Feel this weight extend down through your body into the earth, anchoring you firmly in the present moment. With each inhale, let this weight grow stronger. With each exhale, release any tension or resistance. Repeat silently, I carry the weight of my presence. I am grounded, steady, whole. Spend 10 minutes in this practice. When you return to your day, carry this weight with you as a reminder that your presence is a powerful force in the world. Chapter 13. The Sacred No. There is a power hidden in the word no. It is sacred because it marks the boundary where your true self begins and the world's demands end. Saying no is not just about refusal. It is an act of creation, a declaration that you will not be scattered, diminished, or distracted from your inner truth. The sacred no holds space for your soul's freedom and honors the stillness that births all power. It is the quiet fortress that guards your presence, your peace, and your purpose. Imagine a garden surrounded by walls. The walls do not keep the beauty inside as a prisoner. Rather, they protect the flowers from storms, predators, and chaos. Without these walls, the garden would be overrun, its delicate life trampled and lost. The sacred no is like those walls, necessary and life-giving. It sets limits that allow your inner garden to flourish in calm and strength. Most of us fear the no because we think it will create separation or loss. We worry that denying others will bring rejection or loneliness. But in truth, every no is a yes to yourself. It is a commitment to honor your energy, your time, your boundaries. Saying no does not isolate you. It clarifies your space and invites what truly belongs. I recall a story from the life of Rumi, the great Sufi poet, who once said, "Don't be satisfied with stories, how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth." Saying no is part of unfolding your own myth. It means refusing to live by scripts written by others, stepping away from expectations that do not serve you. It means choosing the sacred path of authenticity over approval. The sacred no is born in stillness. It arises when you are connected to your inner throne, the place of calm authority within. From this place, your no is not reactive or harsh, but clear, gentle, and firm. It does not attack or defend. It simply states truth. This no holds power because it is aligned with your deepest knowing. Consider the story of a famous artist who was invited to join a popular collective. The offer promised fame and fortune, but it came with conditions that compromised her vision. After much reflection, she said no. Many around her doubted her choice, but she knew that by protecting her creative freedom, she preserved her soul's integrity. That no opened the door to her true success, a path only she could walk. Saying no is also an act of self-love. It is a refusal to sacrifice your well-being for the sake of others' comfort or expectations. When you say no to what drains you, you say yes to your vitality. When you say no to what diminishes you, you say yes to your power. This sacred refusal is a radical act of honoring your life. Yet, saying no can feel uncomfortable at first. The mind whispers fears. What if they reject me? What if I lose connection? What if I am seen as selfish? These fears are shadows of the ego's need for control and approval. The sacred no asks you to step beyond those shadows into the light of truth. I once worked with a man named Marcus who struggled to say no. He was overwhelmed by requests and expectations from work, family, friends. He felt trapped in a cycle of exhaustion and resentment. Through gentle guidance, he learned to pause in stillness, to connect with his inner throne, and to speak his no with love and clarity. The shift was profound. He reclaimed his time, restored his energy, and found deeper respect from those around him. His no became a sacred door to freedom. The sacred no is not just about rejecting others, it is about protecting your inner temple. It is a shield that guards the precious space of your soul. When you honor this boundary, you invite a deeper level of respect and connection, because people sense the power of your presence and the clarity of your intention. There is also a spiritual paradox in the sacred no. By saying no to what is not yours, you say yes to what is. The universe responds to your clear boundaries by aligning circumstances that honor your path. The sacred no becomes a powerful attractor, drawing to you the right people, opportunities, and experiences. To cultivate the sacred no, begin by tuning into your body and emotions. Notice when something feels heavy, draining, or off. Let your breath deepen and your heart open. From this place of stillness, invite the courage to say no, not with fear or guilt, but with compassion and respect for yourself and others. Practice makes this sacred no stronger. Each time you honor your boundary, you strengthen the walls of your garden and deepen your connection to your inner throne. Over time, the no becomes a natural expression of your presence and power, a word that carries weight, not of resistance, but of sacred clarity. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space to sit comfortably. Close your eyes and take several slow, deep breaths. Bring to mind a recent situation where you wished you had said no, but didn't. Imagine yourself in that moment, connected to your inner throne of stillness and calm. See yourself speaking your no with clarity, kindness, and confidence. Feel the strength and peace that arise from honoring your boundary. Repeat silently, "My no is sacred. It protects my peace and honors my power." Spend 10 minutes in this visualization. When you open your eyes, carry this sacred no with you as a shield and a key to your freedom. Chapter 14. The Horizon That Waits. There is a horizon that waits, always just beyond the edge of your sight, soft and glowing with promise. It neither rushes forward nor recedes in fear, but holds steady, patient as the dawn. This horizon is not a distant place or a future event. It is a sacred space within you, a threshold of possibility that calls you to unfold, to expand, to become. The horizon that waits is the eternal invitation to presence, to trust, to becoming more than you are. Imagine standing at the shore of a vast ocean, watching the sun dip low. The horizon stretches infinitely, a meeting place of sky and sea, of known and unknown. It is both a boundary and a gateway. It asks you to hold two truths at once: the fullness of the present moment and the promise of what is yet to come. To dwell here is to live in the sacred tension of waiting, neither pushing nor resisting, but embracing the mystery with open arms. In life, the horizon that waits often feels like a paradox. We long for change, for growth, for new horizons, yet we must learn to be patient in the stillness before the shift. This waiting is not passive stagnation, but active presence. It is the fertile ground where the seeds of transformation take root, nourished by your willingness to remain open and trusting. I recall a story from the desert where a wise woman taught her students about the art of waiting. She led them to a cliff overlooking endless dunes and said, "See this horizon? It waits for the traveler, not the other way around. The traveler must learn to wait, to watch, to listen, for the right moment to step forward." Many students found this difficult, impatient to move, to act, to seize their destiny. But the wise woman reminded them, to rush the horizon is to miss the sacred unfolding. Trust the waiting. The horizon that waits is a metaphor for your spiritual journey. It calls you to release the urgency that drives you, to let go of timelines imposed by society, fear, or desire. It asks you to dwell deeply in the present, to honor the process rather than fixate on the outcome. When you do, you enter a state of grace where life flows naturally, and new paths reveal themselves as if by magic. Consider the story of a young artist named Maya, who dreamed of her first exhibition. She worked tirelessly, pushing herself to create, to market, to force success. Yet, despite her efforts, opportunities felt blocked. One day, a mentor told her to trust the horizon. Maya began to practice stillness, to honor the waiting period as part of her growth. She stopped chasing outcomes and focused on deepening her craft and presence. Months later, a gallery invited her to show her work, not because she forced it, but because she became ready. The horizon had waited for her to arrive in her fullness. This waiting also teaches surrender to the flow of life. It reminds you that some doors open only in their own time, that the universe conspires in your favor when you release control. The horizon that waits holds a sacred promise. What is meant for you will come, but only when you are truly prepared to receive it. The horizon is not just about future possibility, it is also about embracing the fullness of now. To stand at the horizon is to balance anticipation with acceptance, hope with peace. It is the space where your dreams and reality meet and merge, creating new forms of being that could not arise without the sacred pause. In many spiritual traditions, waiting is seen as a holy act. The mystics speak of divine patience, a trust in the unseen hand guiding the unfolding of life. This patience is not passive resignation but active faith, a commitment to stay present, to hold the tension, to embody the horizon's waiting. I once sat with a man named Eli, who was consumed by impatience. He wanted success, recognition, and change, but life seemed slow to deliver. Through meditation and reflection, he learned to shift his relationship with waiting, from frustration to reverence. He began to see the waiting not as a void, but as a fertile field. His anxiety dissolved into a quiet trust. In time, his life began to transform, not because he pushed harder, but because he moved with the horizon that waited. The horizon that waits is a teacher of humility and grace. It asks you to acknowledge that you are part of a larger cosmic rhythm, that your story is woven into the vast tapestry of existence. It invites you to dance with time rather than battle it, to let your spirit expand in its own sacred timing. To cultivate this waiting, practice grounding yourself in the present moment. Breathe deeply and imagine the horizon before you. Steady, glowing, patient. Feel your body relax into the knowing that all is unfolding perfectly, even when it feels slow or uncertain. Remind yourself that the waiting is not a pause from life, but life itself, a living, breathing, sacred process. Sacred practice. Find a quiet place and sit comfortably. Close your eyes and take several deep breaths, grounding yourself in the present moment. Visualize the horizon stretching infinitely before you, calm, patient, glowing with possibility. Allow yourself to rest in the space between the known and the unknown, feeling the sacred tension of waiting. Repeat silently, I trust the horizon. I am ready when the time is right. Sit with this vision for 15 minutes, allowing peace and trust to fill you. When you return to your day, carry the horizon within you as a beacon of hope and patience. Chapter 15. The Final Surrender. There is a surrender so complete, so absolute, that it dissolves every last barrier between you and the universe. It is the final surrender, not of weakness, but of profound strength. The letting go of every grasp, every struggle, every desire to control. In this surrender, you become the stillness itself, the silent ocean beneath the storms, the vast sky beyond the clouds. It is the sacred portal where doing nothing commands the universe and all power flows effortlessly to your being. Imagine a leaf falling from a tree. It does not resist its descent. It does not fight the wind or the pull of gravity. It surrenders completely to the natural flow of life, knowing that in letting go, it will return to the earth and nourish new growth. The final surrender is this same radical trust, the willingness to release your hold on outcomes, identities, and fears. It is the deep knowing that you are not separate from the universe, but part of its infinite dance. This surrender is not a single moment, but a journey, a gradual unfolding of trust that softens the ego's grip and opens the heart to divine flow. It is the culmination of all the lessons in stillness, presence, and patience. When you reach this place, you no longer push or pull, you simply are. And in that being, you command the universe, not by force, but by the power of your stillness. I recall a story from the teachings of the great mystic Rumi, who wrote, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come?" The final surrender is the moment when you stop resisting the unknown and open yourself fully to what is. In our lives, this surrender often feels like the hardest step. The ego screams to hold on, to control, to plan, to protect. But every struggle to resist is like a wave crashing against the shore, exhausting itself and changing nothing. The final surrender is the moment when you stop fighting the wave and instead become the shore, steady, unmovable, welcoming. Consider the story of a river flowing toward the ocean. The river resists nothing. It bends, it flows, it follows the path carved by the earth. When it meets the vastness of the ocean, it surrenders completely, merging into the greater whole. In that merging, the river loses its separate identity, but gains infinite power and freedom. So too must you surrender your limited self to the boundless flow of the universe. I once met a woman named Sophia who had spent years striving for success, love, recognition. She was exhausted, fragmented, lost. Through a deep spiritual practice, she arrived at the final surrender. She stopped pushing, stopped striving, and simply allowed herself to be held by life. In that space, she discovered a peace beyond understanding and a power that no effort could create. She became a conduit for grace, and her life transformed in ways she never imagined. This surrender also brings profound humility. It is the recognition that you are not the master of life's storms, but the sacred vessel that carries them. You become a witness to the unfolding mystery, a participant in the cosmic dance. This humility is not defeat, but liberation, a release from the illusion of control and the embrace of divine trust. The final surrender is the essence of stillness, the stillness that commands the universe not through action, but through being. It is the sacred space where desire and fear dissolve, where time and space merge, where you rest in the infinite now. From this place, creation flows effortlessly through you, and your life becomes a living prayer. To cultivate this surrender, begin by releasing small grips each day. Notice where you hold tight, whether to outcomes, thoughts, emotions, or identities. Breathe into those areas and imagine softening your hold, opening your hands, letting go. Trust that in this release, something greater is taking shape. Remember, surrender is not about giving up, it is about giving in to the sacred rhythm of life, to the pulse of the universe, to the quiet voice within that knows you are enough. It is the final key that unlocks the door to true freedom and power. Sacred practice. Find a quiet place where you can sit or lie comfortably. Close your eyes and take deep, slow breaths. With each exhale, imagine releasing all tension, control, and resistance. Visualize yourself as a river flowing freely, bending and moving with ease, until you meet the vast ocean. See yourself merging into that ocean, surrendering completely. Feel the peace, the freedom, and the boundless power that arise from this surrender. Repeat silently, I surrender fully. I am one with the infinite flow. Rest in this stillness for at least 15 minutes. When you return to your day, carry the energy of surrender with you, knowing you command the universe through your being. As we close this journey through the law of stillness, remember this: doing nothing is not emptiness, but fullness. Stillness is not passivity, but power. In the quiet depths of surrender, you become the sacred portal through which all creation flows. The universe listens, not to your effort, but to your essence. You are the stillness that commands stars, the silence that shapes worlds, the infinite presence from which all life blooms. Conclusion. As we draw the curtain on this sacred journey through the law of stillness, may you carry its essence deep within your heart. That true power is not born of effort, struggle, or relentless doing, but from the quiet throne of stillness within you. In this stillness lies the portal to all creation, the space where the universe listens and responds, not to your demands, but to your being. When you cease the restless striving and simply are, you become the sacred axis around which your world turns, the silent command that shapes reality with grace and ease. Remember, stillness is not emptiness but fullness, not weakness but infinite strength. It is the gentle surrender that does not diminish but expands, the calm center that holds all storms and transforms them into harmony. This is the ultimate awakening, to recognize that the power you seek is already yours, waiting patiently in the depths of your presence. Step into this truth every day. Let your life be a living testament to the art of doing nothing, yet commanding everything. If this teaching has stirred something within you, I invite you to return often, to revisit these words, to deepen your practice, and to share this light with others seeking peace and power. The path of stillness is a sacred dance, unfolding endlessly, inviting you to step fully into your divine role as the quiet master of your universe. May your journey be blessed with grace, presence, and the profound peace that only stillness can bring.